What happens when the person you're disrespecting turns out to be a decorated war hero? And what if your assumptions about who deserves respect get demolished in front of an entire airport? This is the story of Master Sergeant Darius Williams, a black man who served 3 tours in Afghanistan, a recipient of the Bronze Star and Purple Heart. And on a Thursday morning in September, he walked up to an airline check-in counter and was told he looked suspicious and needed to prove he could afford his ticket. But here's the part that will leave you speechless. Imagine you've spent 22 years serving your country. You've been shot at, survived IED blasts, lost brothers in arms. You've sacrificed time with your family, missed birthdays and holidays, all in the name of protecting the freedom of strangers. And then you come home, and someone looks at you and sees a threat instead of a hero. For 34 minutes, Master Sergeant Williams stood at that counter while the agent questioned his credentials, his payment method, and his right to be there. She called security. She asked for additional identification. She treated him like a criminal, while his military uniform hung in a garment bag over his shoulder. But Darius Williams didn't back down. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't lose his composure. Instead, he did something that would turn this humiliating moment into a viral phenomenon that reached the Pentagon, triggered a congressional inquiry, and forced the airline to answer questions they'd been avoiding for years. What he said, how he said it, and who witnessed it created a perfect storm that exposed not just one bigoted employee, but an entire system that fails the very people who protect it. So what really happened at that check-in counter? What did the security footage reveal that the airline tried to hide? And why did this veteran's quiet dignity become more powerful than any outburst could have been? This story will restore your faith in justice and break your heart at the same time. September 11th, 2024, Denver International Airport, Main Terminal, 8:43 a.m. The date wasn't lost on Master Sergeant Darius Williams. 23 years since the attacks that changed America. 23 years since the event that ultimately led him to enlist. And on this particular anniversary, he was flying to Washington, D.C. to attend a ceremony honoring fallen soldiers, including 2 men from his unit who never made it home. He'd booked his ticket 3 weeks earlier, a direct flight, economy seat. He was traveling in civilian clothes, jeans and a button-down shirt, with his dress uniform carefully packed in a garment bag for the ceremony. His military ID was in his wallet, his boarding pass on his phone. At 8:40 a.m., he approached the airline's check-in counter. He needed to check his garment bag to ensure his uniform wouldn't get wrinkled. There were 3 agents working. 2 were helping other passengers. The third, a woman named Karen Stevenson, was available. "Good morning," Darius said with the polite, measured tone that military training instills. "I need to check this bag, please." Karen looked up from her computer. Her eyes swept over him in a way Darius recognized immediately. Not seeing a person, making an assessment based on assumptions. "Do you have a reservation?" Her tone was clipped, almost challenging. "Yes, ma'am." I held up my phone, showing my boarding pass. "Flight 2847 to D.C." Karen scanned the barcode. The system confirmed his reservation, but instead of processing his bag check, she paused. "This is an economy ticket." "Yes, ma'am." "The baggage fee is $35. "I understand." Darius pulled out his credit card and held it out. Karen stared at it, then at him. "I'll need to see your ID." He handed her his driver's license. She examined it with unusual scrutiny, holding it up to the light, checking the edges, as if expecting it to be fake. "This shows a Colorado address." "That's correct. I live in Colorado Springs." "And you're flying to Washington, D.C.? "Yes, ma'am, for a military ceremony." Karen's expression didn't change. "I'll need to verify your payment method." Darius felt the familiar weight settling on his chest, the weight every black man knows. The weight of being presumed guilty, presumed fraudulent, presumed less than. "Ma'am, is there a problem?" "Standard verification procedures." She picked up her phone and called someone, speaking quietly. At the counter next to them, a white businessman in a suit was checking 2 bags. The agent processed his transaction in under 3 minutes. No extra questions, no ID held up to the light, no verification calls. Within 5 minutes, Karen's supervisor arrived, a man named Todd Henderson. Karen spoke to him in hushed tones, occasionally glancing at Darius. Todd approached. "Sir, we're going to need additional information before we can process your transaction." "What additional information?" "Where did you get this credit card?" The question hit like a slap. "I applied for it. It's my card. My name is on it." "Can you provide proof of income?" Darius felt anger rising but kept his voice level. "I'm a master sergeant in the United States Army. I'm flying to D.C. for a ceremony honoring fallen soldiers. This is my credit card, my ID, and my reservation. What exactly are you verifying?" "Sir, we have the right to refuse service. On what grounds? I've provided everything you asked for. Your system confirmed my reservation, but you're treating me like a criminal." By now, other passengers were watching. Some were recording. An elderly white woman 2 counters over spoke up. "I've been standing here for 10 minutes. You didn't ask me for proof of income." Todd's face reddened. "Ma'am, please stay out of this." But she didn't. "This young man is being harassed, and we all see it." Karen made the call that would change everything. "I'm calling airport security." And that's when Darius unzipped his garment bag and pulled out his dress uniform. The one with Master Sergeant insignia, the one with rows of ribbons including the Bronze Star and Purple Heart. The moment Darius held up his uniform, everything changed. The uniform wasn't just cloth and ribbons, it was evidence. It was credibility, materialized, and it was undeniable. Todd's expression shifted from defensive to uncertain. Karen actually took a step back, and the growing crowd of passengers went silent. "This is my dress uniform," Darius said, his voice steady but hard. "I'm a master sergeant with 22 years of service, 3 tours in Afghanistan. I've been shot at defending this country. I've lost friends defending this country. And I'm being detained at an airport in this country because you don't believe I can afford a $35 baggage fee?" Someone in the crowd started clapping, then another person, then more. Within seconds, at least 20 passengers were applauding. An airport police officer arrived, called by Karen's earlier request. But instead of the confrontation Karen expected, Officer James Martinez immediately recognized the situation for what it was. "Master Sergeant," he said, addressing Darius with the respect his rank commanded, "is there a problem here? These agents have detained me for over 20 minutes, questioned the legitimacy of my credit card, demanded proof of income, and called security, all for trying to check a bag on a flight I'm confirmed on." Officer Martinez looked at Todd and Karen. "Did his payment go through?" Todd checked the computer. The card hasn't been run yet." "Then run it." "We were verifying. I asked you to run the card, now." Todd processed the payment. It went through immediately. No flags, no fraud alerts. Exactly as it would have if they'd done it 25 minutes earlier. But Officer Martinez wasn't done. "I want to see the security footage from this counter for the past hour, and I want a supervisor from airline management here now." Within 15 minutes, the terminal manager, a woman named Rebecca Walsh, arrived. She'd already been alerted that a situation was escalating and that it involved a service member. She pulled up the footage on a tablet. What it showed was damning. Darius being questioned extensively while other passengers were processed routinely. Karen holding his ID up to the light while the agent next to her barely glanced at other passengers' documents. Todd demanding proof of income, something clearly not standard procedure. But the footage also showed something else. Over the past 3 months,
Karen had requested additional verification for baggage transactions 47 times. An analyst had already pulled her records. Of those 47 times, 41 involved Black or Latino passengers. It wasn't an isolated incident. It was a pattern. Rebecca's face went pale as she reviewed the data. This wasn't just a discrimination incident. This was documented, repeated bias that the airline could no longer ignore. She turned to Darius. "Master Sergeant Williams, on behalf of this airline, I offer you my deepest apologies. What happened here is unacceptable and does not reflect our values." Darius looked at her evenly. "Your values or your liability?" The question hung in the air. "Both incidents need addressing," Rebecca admitted, "but my apology is genuine." Darius nodded slowly. "I appreciate that, but I'm not the first person she's done this to. I'm just the one who had the uniform to prove her wrong. What about the 41 other people who didn't have the uniform?" That question made national news. By evening, the story had gone viral. A witness had posted a video to TikTok showing Darius holding his uniform while passengers applauded. The caption, "They profiled a war hero until they showed him his medals." Veterans organizations amplified the story. Civil rights groups seized on the pattern data, and the airline faced a PR nightmare on one of the most symbolically important days of the year. Karen and Todd were placed on immediate leave pending investigation. The airline announced a comprehensive review of all discrimination complaints, and Darius became an unintentional spokesperson for countless service members and veterans of color who'd experienced similar treatment. He made his flight. He attended the ceremony, but his quiet dignity at that check-in counter became a masterclass in how to confront injustice. Here's what happened in the aftermath, and why this story matters beyond one incident. Karen Stevenson was terminated. The investigation revealed she'd been the subject of multiple discrimination complaints over 3 years, all quietly settled or dismissed. Todd Henderson was demoted and required to complete extensive bias training. And the airline implemented new policies requiring mandatory intervention if any employee requests verification more than twice in a month. But the real change came from veterans themselves. Darius's story sparked a movement within the military community. Active duty service members and veterans started sharing their own experiences of coming home to discrimination, using the hashtag #served but not respected. Over 15,000 stories poured in within 2 weeks. The airline offered Darius a settlement. He donated it to a scholarship fund for children of fallen soldiers. When asked why, he said, "Those 2 men I was flying to honor never got to come home. The least I can do is help their kids." Congress member Sarah Rodriguez, herself a Navy veteran, used Darius's case to introduce legislation requiring airlines receiving federal contracts to track and publicly report discrimination incidents. It passed with bipartisan support. But here's what Darius said that really stuck with me. "I didn't pull out my uniform to prove I'm worthy of respect. I pulled it out to prove that they were wrong. Every person deserves respect, whether they served or not. I just had the evidence they couldn't ignore." If this story moved you, subscribe and turn on notifications. I cover these stories because they matter, because change happens when we pay attention. Comment below. Do you think service members face discrimination? Share your thoughts or experiences. Share this video, because Darius showed us that dignity and truth are more powerful than anger. He served his country for 22 years, and he's still fighting